In the tapestry of life, where every thread holds a story, America in black and white emerges as a haven for the voices echoing through the heart of our communities. In this podcast, we wade through the rivers of our collective experiences, celebrating the vibrant hues of change brought forth by the whispers of hope and the roars of action. It's more than just a conversation. It's a journey into the heart of our society, illuminated by the light of those daring to dream and do. Join us, and let your voice be the melody that guides us toward a dawn where every color finds its place in the masterpiece of our shared destiny. Together, let's paint a future brimming with the positives that dwell in our minds and the actions that shape our world.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of America in Black and White, where we are coloring conversations on the canvas of America. Tonight, our special guest is Dr. John E. Goins. Dr. John E. Goins is a certified Scrum Master and Lean Six Sigma leader with more than 18 years of experience in operations and process improvement. His professional journey began at the United States Postal Service, where he played a key role in driving efficiency, accuracy, and team performance in high volume mail processing environments. Over nearly 2 decades, he honed expertise in problem solving, leadership, and continuous improvement that continues to shape his career path today. John holds a doctor of business administration, an MBA with a concentration in project management, and a Bachelor of Science in business management. He has also earned graduate certificates in both business management and project management, in addition to his certifications in Lean Six Sigma, Yellow, Green, and Black Belt, and Scrum. He is actively pursuing his PMP certification, reflecting his commitment to expanding his project management expertise. Originally from Columbus, Ohio, John recently relocated to Atlanta, Georgia to pursue new professional and entrepreneurial opportunities. He is the founder of Iron Gate Project Management LLC, a company dedicated to delivering secure, steadfast, and successful project outcomes. Alongside his business pursuits, John has stepped into the world of publishing as a debut author, releasing Sands of Time, a romantic fantasy novel that explores themes of love, fate, and resilience across lifetimes. Looking ahead, John's plan John's plans center on building his consulting business, publishing additional works, and continuing his transition into executive level project management roles within the technology and supply chain industries. With a strong belief in lifelong learning and leadership through service, he is passionate about inspiring others to embrace change, pursue their goals, and transform challenges into opportunities. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. John E. Goins. Hello, sir.
Hello, sir. How are you doing this evening?
I am doing just excellent. How are you?
I'm doing great. I do apologize. I am a ball of nerves. It's the first time I've done this, but at the same time, I'm also excited because of the many opportunities that can come from this.
Yes, sir. Is there anything you'd like to add to your bio before we get into the show?
You know what? No, you spelled everything out perfectly. Um, Everything that I've worked on, everything that I've accomplished up to this point is what's gotten me here. And prayerfully, it'll take me on to my next ventures in the future.
That is, you know what, that's always a wonderful thing. And I'm very sure that what's waiting for you is definitely those larger goals that you're intending to reach. Let's jump into your work and your profession of Scrum Mastery and Agile leadership. Can you tell us what first drew you to the world of Scrum and Agile?
Well, the first thing that drew me to the world of Scrum and Agile management, one of the things that I accomplished in, I don't want to say in my beginning years of my postal service, but probably maybe about probably about maybe 7 years ago was obtaining my yellow belt. I did a project. Of course, when you do think of Lean Six Sigma, the yellow belt is for safety. So my project was the unit that I worked in was the business entry unit, also known as BMEU. There were at least 12 employees that were trained to go to different DMUs or detached mill units. Now, with some of those DMUs, you had a small handful of people that were trained to go to all of the units that we had to go to. I believe there were 20 units that we went to. The problem with that is there was a lot of burnout. You have people that have to drive to different areas. And this is when I was back in Columbus, Ohio. One of the areas we had to drive to was Plain City. And where Plain City is really not a far drive, when you go out there and you do the different inspections, the um, the the different things that we have to do with the mail as far as the weights, make sure the barcodes are correct and everything. Traveling back and forth and doing that is very tiring. So the thing that I came up with a plan to where everyone in the unit, including myself, was trained to go to these different units. So over the course of 2.5, almost 3 months, I had different people pair up with the ones that were trained to go to all of the DMUs. Within 3 months, everyone was trained. So I cut back on safety issues as far as like drive times, as far as people being tired and fatigued behind the wheel. And I was also able to send out different people to go to these units as well as keeping the unit within the building staffed as well.
So look, I know when they say like your yellow belt, you say it was for safety, right?
Mhm.
So and I know just in general when we say safety, safety is just being safe. But can you tell us what is the actual purpose behind that yellow belt and the safety?
Well, the purpose behind the yellow belt is to show, like, let's just say if I were to apply to another position with another company, the yellow belt will show that company, like, okay, he takes safety into high esteem. Safety is his top priority. So, what is it that this person with this yellow belt can do with our company? And the good thing about a yellow belt is it transcends. So, where I may have gotten my yellow belt with the post office, I can use it anywhere. So once you put that, you have anything Lean Six Sigma on your resume, they'll see it and they'll say, okay, this person understands agile, they understand lean concepts. Let's talk to this person, possibly get him in for an interview. And in some cases, if you're a consulting firm, you can do freelance work or contract work and they'll see that, okay, you have this lean credential. Let's talk to this person and see what they can do to help us move in a more lean and a more agile direction.
Okay. So how would you describe the role of Scrum Master to someone unfamiliar?
The role of a scrum master is basically you try to make sure that the design team or the production team is management free. The goal for a scrum master is to be able you do your daily sprints. And when you do your daily sprints, you basically talk about what went good, what's not going good, and what can we do to fix that. And then once that's done, the scrum master's off hands. After that, we just check in if there are any obstacles that the team is dealing with, if there's any issues that they're having, then yes, the scrum master will step in and we'll find out what's going on, how can we fix it, the steps that we need to take to fix it. But if anybody was wondering exactly what a scrum master does, a scrum master basically runs the daily sprints. The daily sprints are only supposed to be 15 minutes. 15-minute stand-up talk, that's it. You tell me what we talk about, what's going wrong, what's going good, how can we fix it, and that's it. After that, then the production team goes into work mode. And then the scrum master is also able to handle multiple projects. So you might have a project that you're doing here on one side, but then on the other side of the company, you have a project that you're working on over here. So the thing about a scrum master is you have to be able to multitask. If you're not able to multitask, you're gonna have a very hard time being a scrum master.
Wow. So can you tell us then, in being a Scrum Master, is that like considered to be like upper management, but also a part of, I don't know, is it operational? What part of that does the Scrum Master fit into?
The role of a Scrum Master is very multifaceted. Scrum Masters really don't have any authority, so to
Okay.
speak. They're just more like, I would say, like a median, like a go-between, kind of like a middleman, somewhat.
Oh,
The main ones that really have the authority in a project are the project manager, product manager, and anyone who is in a leadership role on the development team.
okay. So, what's the biggest misconception about agile teams?
That's a good question. I think the biggest misconception about an agile team is the fact that some people don't think they can work in agile. And I do apologize if I sound like a novice answering this question because
Oh
I
no.
am kind of still pretty new in agile myself. But
Okay.
when it comes to agile teams, an agile team is essentially that you have to be able to work on your own. And a lot of people aren't used to having teams like that. So when it comes to agile, when it comes to Scrum, when it comes to that, a lot of companies are newly being introduced to that. So if you're someone that is an authoritarian figure and in a company, dealing with agile can be a little bit rough because now you kind of just place the responsibility on the team. You're almost hands off unless there is a situation or an issue where you have to step in and you have to, I don't want to say regulate, but you have to go in and actually fix the problem or fix the issue that's going on.
Mhm. Wow. Well, I'll tell you this. No, I think you're actually informing us and giving us an opportunity to learn some things that are pretty new. Because I've heard and understood a lot about that Six Sigma process.
Mhm.
Always wanted to actually, get the qualifications, but I just never did. And pretty much, I'll tell you the truth, I never really knew how to actually get into that. So this is real interesting, and I appreciate you for taking us through this process.
Well, I can tell you what you can do. I know you just mentioned that you were trying to figure out how to get your green belt or yellow belt, black belt, or even get into Scrum. Scrum Alliance is a good place to go to if you want to learn how to get your Scrum, your CSM, your Certified Scrum Master. Udemy. Udemy is actually where I went through to get my green belt and my black belt. They actually have courses that you can take online, and sometimes you can catch those courses on sale. And you can get into those courses. They're self-paced. You do take an exam at the end, and once you pass that exam, you get your certification,
Wow.
and it is
Okay.
globally recognized.
Okay. How do you foster collaboration across diverse squads?
When it comes to diversity, you have to understand perspective.
Mhm.
And when it comes to perspective, that means anybody who is involved, you have to understand their point of view. So there can be projects that you can work on, there can be teams that you can work on, and you have to be able to understand that something can be being done in the project that may offend someone, whether it be religious, sexual orientation, gender, race, whatever. You have to be able to understand where that person is coming from. Give them the opportunity to give their input. The one thing that I have learned while working with the postal service, dealing with people in general, is you have to understand someone's point of view. And when it comes to projects, when it comes to companies, you're dealing with people from different backgrounds. People with different backgrounds, there are also things that you have to understand about their background. So you might want that person on your team because of their level of expertise. But if there is something that conflicts with whatever it is their religion, their gender, their race, their sexual orientation, you have to take that into account. So when it comes to perspective, That is a very, very, very important thing that you have to take into account when it comes to working on projects and building a project team.
Wow. Now, now that's interesting because, like, when you say you have to take all those different things into account, does that mean that there are things that you do different, or there are things that you just have to be cognizant of, as in the processes in which you're working?
More so both.
Okay.
Because, of course, whatever company it is that you're working for, if they want that project to happen, they want that project to happen.
Hmm.
But in the midst of trying to work on that project and complete the project, you have to be mindful as to who it is you want on your team, which is why, you have to go around, you have to ask, hey, I'm working on this project. This is what the project is. This is the work that's going to be done, and this is the outcome. Do you think this is a project that you would like to be a part of? You have to give them the option. Sometimes you hear some people say, I want you, I choose you, I choose you, I choose you. It doesn't work like that. It does not work like that. You have to be able to understand someone's point of view. You have to be able to understand their perspective. And sometimes not having that person's level of expertise on a team might hurt. So you may have to, where you may have had one person, you might have to get two people to fill the spot of that one person. But at the end of the day, you still have to be able to bring forth a complete product or a complete project. So that's why you have to go around, you have to ask, you have to inquire to whomever it is that you want on your team to make sure that they feel comfortable filling that slot. If they do not feel comfortable filling that slot, then you have to progress forward.
So, what's your approach to sprint retrospectives and continuous improvement?
Ooh, another good question. Well, when it comes to sprint retrospectives that happens at the end, and the sprint retrospective actually leads into the next sprint. So what you want to do during the sprint retrospective, the approach that should be taken is find out what issues that they were having during the project, during the sprint, during everything. Find out what issues they were having. You want to make sure you keep record of those, because anytime you come across a project that may be similar or close to something that you've already completed, there may be an issue that they may have encountered in that last project. And then you recorded how you got through it. And that same approach can be taken in that next project. So when it comes to sprint retrospective, you want to make sure that at the end of the sprint that you find out, hey, what went good, what went bad? How can we utilize that into the next project so that we don't run into that issue again?
So, can you share a moment when agile principles helped solve a major challenge?
Yes. One of the issues that we were having, I was working at the station back home, and we were having issues with scanning the packages, scanning the letters when we were casing the mail and things like that. So when it comes to agile is basically getting rid of waste. So instead of having multiple people working, because now where you have multiple people working on one thing, that leaves something else out that could be completed. So one of the things that I suggested was, well, how about you take the people that can actually work the parcels fast, have them work the parcels, instead of having a group of people in this one small area. Because if you have 9 people in an area that is very, very small, you're going to run into a lot of confusion. People are going to be running into each other. There could be possible injury, which is where the yellow belt comes into play. There could be a lot of injury. So instead of having 9 people, let's bring it down to 6. Not 6, I'm sorry, bring it down to 4. So now each zone, because the station I worked at had 4 zones, each zone has 1 person. And if one person gets done with what they're doing earlier before the other person does, then that person can go over and help them, which now that cuts down on how much time is being taken for certain mail to get processed. And then when it came to the letters, You have 4 people that are working the letters in large envelopes. So now when it comes to agile, now it's becoming a more safe environment and less cluttered, because instead of having a group of people, a large group of people in one area, you can disperse that group. And let's say you've got someone that gets done with the letters. Okay, if there's enough time, they can go over and they can help somebody over there with packages. Now that what that does now is it cuts down time. So now by this time, instead of saying getting done at maybe 8 o'clock, 8:30, we might be getting done at 6, 7 o'clock. So now by the time the carriers come in, they can get their routes together, they can get their mail, and out the door they go.
So, how do you handle resistance to agile transformation?
When it comes to resistance, you have to be able to, like, which perspective again comes into play here. You have to understand someone's point of view. You have a lot of people who feel as though the old school way, and I'll be the first to admit, before I actually sat down and understand what agile does and what it will work for, I was one of those that gave pushback because I was used to the old school way. But then once I sat down, talked to the people that were trying to change a few things, and understood why the agile approach was not so much easier, but better. Then I said, okay, which actually kind of sparked my interest into getting an agile. So when it comes to that approach, sometimes it might be one person, sometimes it might be several people. But with those several people, the one thing that you have to be strong is you have to be strong in influence. If you know how to give a strong influence and also be able to break down an easier understanding, that will cut down on the pushback. Now, will it stop the pushback? No, because sometimes, as they say in church, we backslide, and we will backslide. But at the same time, those same people that happen to backslide, those same people that happen to push back, there's nothing wrong with the conversation. Just pull them to the side. Like, hey, what's wrong? You got a question about anything? Do you need a better understanding of something? Do you need me to break something down? And it's also how you talk to people. A lot of people that get in these authority positions, they feel as though it's better to talk at people. No, you don't talk at people. You talk to people. Because the moment you start talking at people, there's going to be a tone in your voice. And I'll admit, I'm a tone person. If you talk to me in a certain tone, you're going to get a certain tone. But when you're in a position of authority, you have to understand that the way you talk to someone is the way they're going to respond. So if you're trying to get someone to cut down on pushback, or if you're trying to get them to understand and not push back, you have to talk to them in a way where they can understand. You have to break down exactly what it is that you're talking about. You have to break down exactly what the benefits are. So that way you can get buy-in. Once you get buy-in and you have a strong influence, you can get people to switch to agile with no problem. But you have to be able to understand their perspective. You have to be able to talk to them, and you have to be able to break it down and help them understand exactly what it is that you're trying to do.
So with this, because all of that, I mean, it sounds like people to me. And so when I say it sounds like people to me, with you dealing with these people in all these different areas, can you tell me what, as a Scrum Master and the yellow belt that you have for this particular segment that we're talking about here in Sigma, can you tell us how has that transcended into your relationships with those that you work with, or and team gathering? How has that? How does that fit into that?
Well, that brings me to a story. So when I was pursuing my yellow belt, the people that I worked with, now the unit that I worked in, and I was actually an acting supervisor at the time. It was a unit that was quote unquote called a retirement unit. We had a lot of people that were in their last years of working at the post office. It's an easy job. It is a real easy job. And at the time, I think I was 37, 36, 37, and I'm working with people that are either almost 50 or over 50. So, and I think maybe two other people probably may have been in their late 30s and early 40s. So when you're dealing with people who are set in their ways, which is what I dealt with, that was one of the issues that I had. The main ones that worked at these different DMUs or the detached mail units, they were the ones doing the most complaining, which of course they were the older group. And that's when I said, you know what? Let me try to make this a yellow belt project. Let me make this my project. And that's pretty much what I did. Working with them, I explained to them, like, listen, here's what we're going to do. We're going to pair you up with different ones, and we're going to have you go to these different DMUs. You'll be there all day, or you'll be there until whenever you get the mail sent out, and then you'll come back. And you'll do this over a course of a week. And I even told them how the training is going to go. I said the first 2 days, you're going to show you how everything is done. I said that third day, you're going to assist them. Those next 2 days is going to solely be just you. They'll be there to watch you, to make sure that you're doing what you're doing. But those next 2 days, you're going to be the main one doing the footwork. I said, if you have any questions, the one thing I always tell people, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask me. I have no problem. I have no issue. I said, and trust and believe, just as much as this is new to you, this is new to me. So just like how you're going to be asking me questions, I'm going to be asking people questions who already have their yellow belts, green belts, and black belts, exactly how they would tackle a situation like this. So when it comes to large groups, you have, like I said, you have to be able to break it down to them, help them understand. Same thing with perspective. If they're stuck in them old school ways, they're stuck in them old school ways. And they didn't like me for a nice little minute. They did not like me. But then once they realize, like, okay, that's how this is working. That's how this is working. I'm not exhausted. I'm not fatigued. I'm not tired. I'm not the main one that they're asking to, hey, drive to Plain City. Hey, drive to Reynoldsburg. Hey, drive over here to the east side. Drive out here to the west side near Hilliard. We didn't have any of those issues anymore. Everybody actually began to work like a team. Wow. And then once the teamwork element started happening, the flow, the workflow in the unit improved tremendously. Now, again, because I was young, they didn't like me because they thought I was trying to tell them what to do. When in reality, what I was really trying to do is I was trying to look out for everyone's well-being. Because as a supervisor or anybody who is in a high-level position, the people are your responsibility. Yes, of course, getting the work is part of that. But your main responsibility is the people. Make sure the people understand what's going on. Make sure you understand where the people are coming from. And you also have to have a level of empathy as well. Because when it comes to empathy, you have to be able to understand where they're coming from to help them to come up with a solution in order to help benefit the people who are involved.
So did that improve your relationships with these people, or
Yes.
is it okay? That's a good thing. So apparently, I guess maybe in just I guess you guys having to just mesh together for a while is what it took.
Yes.
So what tools or platforms do you rely on most in your Scrum practice?
Well, of course, you have Jira. You have Jira. You also have, was it Talibu? Oddly enough, I'm an Excel guy. I like Excel. I've always liked Excel.
Really?
Yes, I'm one of those. Yes, I'm Excel. Even Google Sheets. I like Google Sheets. Um, when it comes to dealing in those different arenas, you have to be able to work with what's comfortable for you. Yeah, you have people that do swear by Jira. Jira's okay. I like Jira. Jira is not a go-to for me, but I do like Jira. But my thing is Excel. I'll use Excel until I'm blue in the face. So when it comes to certain tools and everything, and also Microsoft Word, because I'd like to take notes, and like if I write it down, I definitely want to type it to make sure that I have it. So in case there's something I need to go back to or I need to reference, I can either go back to what I put in Excel, or I can just go back to my notes that I wrote down in Microsoft Word.
Okay. So, and when you just think about, and you were mentioning, um, this other program other than Excel, I think you said Jira.
Jira.
Okay. So, I mean, I've never heard of that. Can you tell me what is that?
So Jira is basically one of those apps where it helps you keep up with the progress of a project. You have to do, in progress, and done. So let's say you have a group of 12 people on your project team.
Mhm.
You put all their names down in one row, and then you have the to-do list. So the to-do list is basically everything that needs to be done. The thing about Agile, you have Agile and you have Waterfall. Agile is one of those, is the process where everybody kind of works individually.
Okay.
Waterfall, you have this group working on something, and once they finish, it goes down to the next group. Once they finish, it goes down to the next group. When they finish, it goes down to the next group. That's waterfall. So you have some companies, you have some instances where waterfall works, and you have most instances where it's agile. But the thing about Jira, the way Jira works is it kind of helps keeps the progress of the project basically in order. So you have your to-do list. So everything that you're working on in your to-do list is listed right there. And then once you start it, you put it in progress. And then once you have it in progress, you're working on it. Once you complete it, it goes in the done column. So it just kind of keeps everything going. So
Oh,
with like it's really good to use for agile. Agile, like I said, agile is one of those things where everyone works individually. Each team works individually.
mhm.
So you might have one team working on this, you have another team working on this, you have another team working on another issue, another team working on another issue. And as long as those things get done, you get to your finished product or your finished project. But and the other thing about Jira too is you can only have, I think it's only one or two people who are in charge of moving things from to do to in progress to done.
Right.
Because if you have too many people doing it, that's where a lot of confusion come into place.
Oh, I was
Because
about to
let's
say
say,
that sound like a fire drill.
yes, very much so, very much so. Because if you get into a situation where you have too many people that have the ability to move things around,
Mhm.
you might get somebody that's like, okay, I didn't finish it today, but I'm gonna finish it tomorrow. So I'm going to put it in the done column, and when I come in tomorrow, it's gonna be the first thing I work on. No, because what you did is you falsified.
Mhm.
Because now when the scrum master and the project manager, the product owner come in and they say, oh, perfect, so this is done, so now we can progress to the next part. But here you are, you're still sitting here and you're trying to work on it and you're trying to get it finished, and now you've caused a whole group of confusion, because not only is the scrum master, project manager, product owner, and development team taking a hit, but it's also your stakeholders too. If your stakeholders start taking a hit, now you have a really big problem, because a lot of times these stakeholders are the people who run the company. And if the ones who run the company are taking a hit, you're going to have another problem. You're going to have a huge problem on your hands. And now you have to explain what happened, why it happened, and how it happened. And sometimes if you don't have the answers to give in those situations, who knows what the outcome will be.
Right. So, a lot of the work that you do, because I hear you say how you love Excel. Are these done in like project management programs, or how are they actually ran and tracked? Because That sounds like an enormous amount of detailed work that's got many, many things that's got to be accounted for. How do you keep track of that? Is there a particular program that you use?
Well, the way you keep track of it is, of course, you log in, and when you log in, it'll show you right there on the screen what your progress is. It'll show you who's starting on what, who hasn't started on a certain point in the project. It'll also show you what's done in the project as well. The one thing that I will say that Jira will help you with is the what is known as the MVP, minimal viable product, which means, of course, there is a certain product that, as time goes on, it'll fully function the way it's supposed to. But what the MPV does is it'll give you enough of that product for the company or the consumers to use. And as time goes on, then yes, we'll get the product to the point to where it's supposed to be used for the full function that it's supposed to be used for. Which is why Jira, in a lot of cases, is a good application to use because it keeps everything in order. It keeps everything in line. Like I said, you're able to move that tab from where you're starting to it being in progress. And then once you've completed that, and it has to be done once it's completed, that's when you can go in and you can move it. Because if you go in and you move it before you're finished, like I said, that's when you're going to run into a bunch of problems. So when using that particular program, that will help you keep everything in line and get you the MPV that you're looking for. I'm sorry,
So,
MVP, excuse me.
so how do you measure success in agile environments?
Ooh, that is a good question. When it comes to measuring success is progress. So when you have your daily sprints, that's one of the things that you talk about is where are we at? Group A, did you finish this? You did? Good. Group B, did you finish this? No, you didn't. What all do you have left? In that case, then you'll take somebody from group A, and not the whole group, because you still have to be able to progress forward. But you'll take a couple people. All right, listen, person one, person two, I need you to come over here to group B and help them finish their part of the project. That way, once they get finished, they can start on the next. Now, in some cases, you'll want to keep person one and person two on that same group to get them progress, because by the time they get to group A, by the time they catch up to group A is already getting ready to progress to the next part. So you want to be able to try to have as many people with the expertise to help group B catch up to group A.
So let's move over to more of your Lean Six Sigma, but we're going to talk about your operational excellence.
Okay.
Can you tell us what motivated you to pursue the Lean Six Sigma training in general?
In my career at the Postal Service, it had no direction. Honestly, I was just kind of just like, let me dip my feet in and see if I like the temperature, basically. So when it came to Lean Six, everybody was like, would have certain people like career conferences. Okay, career conferences. I would go to those, and they would ask like, "You got your Lean Six Sigma?" And me being young in the Postal Service, what's Lean Six Sigma? And they would kind of look at me like you know what Lean Six Sigma is? And it's like, no, I don't. And so eventually, once I got into that, once they talked to me about what it was, the benefits of having your Lean Six Sigma would be, and I said, okay, let me look into this. So I'm a research person. The one thing before I dive in, I'm going to definitely research first. And when I researched, that's when I figured out, like, okay, you get your yellow belt, that's for safety. Um, you got your green belt, which is for saving money, as well as the black belt. Your black belt is also one of those where you save money. The difference with me getting my green belt and black belt, I went through, I went back to school to get mine. Would I have liked to have gotten mine through the post office? Absolutely, absolutely. But you get to a point to where you get tired of asking. You get
Right.
to a point to where you're tired of begging. You get to a point where you're tired of putting yourself out there, and it's like, you know what? I'm gonna just go in and do it on my own. So when I got the yellow belt, like I said, the yellow belt, I got that through the post office. And what pushed me towards getting that yellow belt was being able to help my unit. As much as some of those people didn't like me, I was like, listen, I understand because I'm one of those people that's getting sent out here and there. I'm tired too. When I did my yellow belt was not only for my benefit, but it was also for the benefit of my unit. So then it got to the point like, okay, I have my yellow belt. I got my yellow belt certification. I got my yellow belt lanyard that the post office gives you. I have that. So now I'm asking, so how do I get a green belt? How do I get a green belt? I'm talking to the Lean Six Sigma coordinator. How do I get this? How do I get that? Well, you have to be on the Kaizen. Okay, so how do I get on the Kaizen? Oh, well, we'll just have to come up with the project that you can get on.
But they never
Days,
did.
days, weeks, months, year. I said, you know what? Find it on my own. And that's what I did. So the thing that pushed me towards, well, and of course, curiosity. The saying, curiosity killed the cat, satisfaction brought it back. So out of my curiosity, of course, I kept getting turned away. Then it got to the point where it was almost like I was being given a deaf ear. So I did my research. Where Lean Six Sigma has definitely helped me in my postal career, I probably say maybe about, because I'm pushing almost 20 years. It'll be 19 years in November. So we're talking, this is probably about maybe 12 years in. And by this time, I'm wanting to get into these different positions. All these positions are asking for you to have your Lean Six Sigma yellow belt or your green belt or your black belt, all three or two of the three. So I said, you know what? Not only am I going to use this to benefit myself, but I also want it to benefit other people as well. I don't want it to be just for me, because if I do it just for me, where's it going to go after that? So that's really what pushed me to do it. I knew there was going to be a benefit for people. The people that I work with, I have a lot of close connections and close friendships in the Postal Service. And I was like, you know what? There's a way that I can help these people, because as a regular employee, you hear the gripes, you hear the grievances, you hear the complaints, you hear the disgruntled. And a lot of times the things that those people say, they fall upon deaf ears. I just happen to be one of those people that happen to be a good listener. And so when I would hear a lot of the issues they were having, I was like, okay, Lean Six Sigma is definitely going to help out in this situation. And of course it did. Now, in the unit that I worked in, it was just a scratch on the surface. And that's fine, because the best way to start is taking a step. And that's what I did. I took a step. Now, does that mean that step is going to turn into a run? Eventually it will. At the moment, no. Right now, it's just a step, and I'm taking steps. Eventually, it's going to get to the point where I'm running. And when I'm running, everybody better jump on the bandwagon, because if you don't, I'm not coming back around. You better jump on now. You better jump on now while the jumping's good. Because like I said, once I'm gone, I'm gone. I mean, don't get me wrong. What I've done is going to benefit you. But at the same time, if this is something that you want to jump on, jump on. Do it. If not, I don't know. Yeah.
But you know that you just you started into what I was my next question is actually going to be. Like, so with all of this work and and the qualifications that you have in dealing with the people that you deal with, how does that transcend to your work or your dealings with people outside of work? Let's just say your community, things of that nature. How do you use those qualifications, certifications in that way?
I do apologize. Repeat the question because it kind of froze up a little bit there.
Saying with your qualifications that you have, uh,
Mhm.
how do you take that and use that outside of your place of work when it comes to dealing with the public, or dealing with your friends or people that you work with outside of your actual job? How do you take those qualifications and use them?
Well, the good thing about that is when you're working in the post office, you're kind of dealing in a controlled environment. You know who you're working with. You see the same people every day. So you already know what their issues are. You already know what their gripes are because you work with the same people every day. When it comes to the public is different because the public is wishy washy. One day it might be this issue, next day it's another issue. They'll go to the same issue, but then they'll try to tie it into the issue that they told you about the day before. And the one thing that I have learned, and in some cases still learning, is patience. You got to have patience because a lot of the people in this world are impatient and everybody feels as though they come first. You have to be able to, you have to be, again, this is where you have perception. Perception is key. You have to be able to understand some people's point of view. Now, don't get me wrong, some people's points of view are very skewed, very skewed. And you also deal with a lot of people who feel as though they have the privilege to be pushed to the front of the line. You just have to tell them, wait your turn. And the way you do it, that's like when I worked on the window. I used to be a window clerk. And I had a situation where it was a customer, he was upset. Um, 9 o'clock in the morning, I open the store up. I'm getting everything set up. Customers start coming in. This gentleman and his wife come in. 9 o'clock in the morning, the man is already intoxicated. Comes to the front of the counter. I have a customer. He comes to the front of the counter. I haven't gotten my check. What's wrong with our mail service? The letter carrier didn't have it. And he's just saying all these things. And so the way I use a lot of the techniques and stuff that I had, and this is even before I had my Lean Six Sigma and education and everything. Sometimes you have to have emotional intelligence. You have to have emotional intelligence because regardless of what your certifications are, regardless of what your education is, when you're in a controlled environment like your job, you know how to handle that. There's a hierarchy that handles that. If you have an issue with somebody, you go to your supervisor, your manager, or you go to HR. The public doesn't have that. The public doesn't have
Right.
HR. The public doesn't have supervision. The public doesn't have management. But what you need to have is emotional intelligence. And when you use your emotional intelligence, a lot of times you can either A, diffuse the situation, or B, the person's more upset because they didn't take you to a plateau that they wanted to deal with you on. It's like they always say, don't let people bring you down to their level because they'll beat you with experience. Emotional intelligence is key, regardless of what your certifications are. Emotional intelligence is key when it comes to dealing with the public. Because, like I said, when it comes to the issues that they have, the public is wishy washy. But it doesn't mean don't take into account as to how they feel. Because you might be able to take, you know what, I had the same situation at work. Okay, let me use it with this situation with this and see how it works. Plug it in. 9 times out of 10, The same situation you had at work is going to work with somebody that's on the outside. But where it was an easy fix in the controlled environment of work, you have to have emotional intelligence when it comes to dealing with the people on the outside, because a lot of their gripes, a lot of their grievances, a lot of their issues come from emotion. And if you can keep your emotions in check, if you can keep a calm, monotone voice and talk to them and not at them, you can fix the problem with no issue.
Wow. With you sounding like such a people person, I just kind of find that, it seems like, with you wanting to and having the empathy that and sympathy that you talked about earlier, it would seem to be a little bit difficult that you wouldn't be a success in the work that you do. What are some of the things that you find to be, some of your most difficult moments that make things a little stressful and out of sorts for you when you know that there shouldn't be?
Um, well, let's see. The good Lord, when He created us, He put these two things on the side of our head called ears.
Yes, he did.
Um, some people just choose not to listen.
Mhm.
They choose not to, and that has always been. And I mean, and don't get me wrong, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm perfect, because every once in a while there are times when I let certain things go in this one and out this one. I have my moments, but that's pretty much one of the biggest issues that I've had. Um, when it comes to people having titles, some people, when they get certain titles, they act as if whatever suggestions or whatever solutions that you might have for a certain problem that they're having is not going to work because they didn't come up with it. So when you try to explain it to them, they're not going to listen. And that is honestly one of the biggest issues that I've had in the Postal Service, because there have been times I have given many a solution to many a problem. In fact, here's one for you. I was the I was the acting retail specialist for the district back home. We were having a marketing meeting down in Cincinnati, and the gentleman that I was talking to that was holding the meeting was asking questions about how can we fix the issues that we're having on the front window when it comes to filling mystery shops. I offered the suggestion. I said, well, majority of the supervisors that we have at our stations have all been former carriers. We do not have any supervisors, or if we do, is very few that used to be clerks. Clerks are the ones that work the window. Clerks are also the ones that handle the packaging and the distribution of mail to the carriers. I said, you need to have a clerk supervisor in place that used to be a clerk. I also said that if this is a position that you possibly want to put into play, I would like to be the first person to put my application in to become a supervisor. Now, mind you, I said put my application in. I didn't say put me in the position. And he kind of looks around and he goes, nope, I don't like that idea. I said, okay, continue filling mystery shops then. And everybody just kind of looked at me like, did he just say that? And I'm like, yes, I just said that. You wanted a solution. You asked for a solution. You asked for a way that we can fix this. You had so many stations that were filling mystery shops. And 9 times out of 10, it was for one question, which is the hazmat question, which is there anything liquid, fragile, perishable, or hazardous, such as lithium batteries, perfumes, mercury, or
In that
alcohol?
package.
And that's it. That's it. You get 5 points. The most points that you would lose on a mystery shop is not asking the hazmat question. You get 5 points for uniform. You get 5 points if you don't suggest additional services and stuff like that. It's the hazmat question. And I was just explaining that to him. It's like none of these supervisors are going to know that because majority of them have been carriers. So they're going to cater to the carrier craft. Get someone who's been a clerk, and not just any clerk. Get someone who's an experienced clerk. Get someone who's seasoned, who knows the rules and regulations, who knows about the uniform, who knows about all the processes that are handled on the front window. Get you somebody that can do that. And all it takes is an application. If we have to fill out an application, and you know what, and I don't know if there's any postal people watching this, I might get in trouble, and that's okay. But it's always an application that has to get put in. You have seasoned people who want to get into these positions, that want to help out. Let them help. Let them fill it out. Let them do it. Because the problem is the more issues that we have, the more we fail. And trust and believe. When have you ever heard anything good happen in the post office? Because there's been a number of good things that have happened in the post office. You don't ever hear about the good. You hear about the bad. So in order to fix that narrative, in order to change that narrative, you have to put people who are the experts and expertise who can fill that role and change the narrative.
Well, we got.
So when it comes to listening, that's the main issue that I've dealt with the Postal Service.
Well, we got a comment here in the chat, and it's from Deanna Walker. She says, "Dedication and hard work. Keep going, Dr. Goins." I put it on the screen.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
I mean, I'm sure that, people that do service, especially, from that retail perspective, they know just how hard, I guess, it is when it comes to dealing with the public, because that can be a real beast. I'll tell you that.
Yes.
It's a real beast. So tell us, how has Lean Six Sigma shaped your approach to problem solving?
When it comes to problem solving, Lean Six Sigma, like I said, Lean Six Sigma is a process to develop waste. Lean Six Sigma was developed in 1996 for a person who worked at Motorola. And when it comes to problem solving, you have to be able to find a solution to a problem that is easy, quick, and streamlined, which means there is no, you want to get to A to Z, but you don't want to have to necessarily take all the different steps to get to B, to get to C, to get to D, to get all the way to Z, because by the time you get to Z, they're going to say, okay, well, we got to go find something else. So when it comes to that, it has helped me a lot when it comes to a lot of my decision making at work, and even a lot of my decision making when I'm not at work and when I'm on my own. Because a lot of times I'll sit there and I'll say, you know what, would it be a good idea to do this, or should I do it a different way? 9 times out of 10, doing it a different way is better, because if I do it the way I'm gonna do it, I'm always gonna fail. If I do it the way I do it, I'm always gonna fail. Why? Because I'm always gonna take the extra steps to do something instead of the necessary steps. It's not about the extra steps you do. Just take the necessary steps. And you take the necessary steps, and that's what agile is. When you take the necessary steps to get something done, it'll get done with no problem.
Well, let's move over to your leadership and project coordination and delivery. So we're going to talk a little bit more about your project management and strategic execution. What's your philosophy on effective project management?
My philosophy on effective project management is you have to understanding the processes. You have to understand the processes as to what it is that you're trying to do to get the project that you need to get completed. You have to be able to gather all the information that you need. Why do you need this project? What is the project for? How is the project going to benefit the company? How is it going to benefit the people? Cool. You get that information. Then after that, the information that you need to gather is, when does this need to be done? How do you want it done? Those two questions alone right there pretty much set the precedence for how the project is going to be completed. And it's kind of one of those things, like once you understand the processes of how to be an effective project manager, again, perspective, who's this going to affect? You always have to take into account the stakeholders. Stakeholders are people who are affected directly or indirectly by the project. You have to take into account and when, like I said, perspective. Who's this going to affect the most? Is this going to affect the employees? Is it going to affect the public? Is it going to affect the C-suite people? Is it going to affect your managers and supervisors? Once you get all your information in line, you ask the necessary questions, that's what makes you an effective project manager. And efficiency is always key. You want to make things as streamlined and as easy as possible. The easier, the sooner a project can get completed, the more information you get, the easier the project can be completed.
We got two comments here in the chat, and they're both by your brother. The first one here is on the screen. He says, "Keep up the good work, big bro." And here's the other one. "Mom is definitely proud of you."
Why would you do that on live?
Oh man.
Oh man.
That is wonderful.
Thank you, bro. I appreciate you, man.
You see, I mean, that's called impact, though. That's called impact. And so you see, you're delivering the goods in a lot of ways, and that's an excellent thing. That's an excellent thing. And see, again, that's why I say, the heroes like you are the ones that people need to know and need to see, because this work that you're doing is delivery in more ways than just getting a damn letter in the mail. Because
Right.
it's a whole process. And so, and I think that, what I appreciate more is you taking the time to not only explain this process, but in all this qualification that you have to go through in order to make this come to light. So when you mentioned earlier about emotional intelligence, and we're talking about now your project management and strategic execution. Give us this insight as to how those two mesh together. That is the emotional intelligence and the strategic execution that you have to do with project management.
When it comes to emotional intelligence, not only do you have to control your emotions, but you also have to sort of control, not only say control, you have to influence the emotions of the people on your team. So when it comes to strategically completing a project, let's say you're in a project, you're working with somebody, they may have something going on outside of work. Not so much something going on at work, but something going on outside. They may have family issues, they may have health issues or anything like that. And this person happens to be a very, very prolific individual on your project team. The one thing that you want to do is pull them to the side, talk to them. Hey, what's going on? Are you okay? You don't have to give me any particulars. If you tell me, like, listen, I have a lot going on. I'm in a weird headspace. My life outside of here is having some issues. I'll be the first to tell you, take some time off. Take some time off. Because if you're having some conflicted issues about what's going on outside of here and what's going on outside of work or outside of this project is transcending into the work that you're doing, you're not going to be able to complete what part of the project you're doing, and it's going to make us fail. I might have two other people or another person that can multitask on what it is they're doing along with what you're doing. 9 times out of 10, what I would do is I would put two people on that one part, multitask. Hey, this person, I had to give them some time off. They got some personal issues going on. I need them to be in a clear headspace, not only for this project, but I need them to be in a clear headspace for themselves. Because just as much as whatever they have going on is affecting us here at work, it's affecting them outside of here. I need this person to take care of what they have going on outside of here first, and then they can come back and take care of it. But I'm going to have these two people take care of that. And what that displays is emotional intelligence. I don't want this person to break down on this job or break down on this project. I don't want them to be upset. I don't want them to be angry. I don't want them to all of a sudden just say, hey, I called off for 3 days. I called off for 3 days. So now you're trying to contact this person like, hey, what's going on? Where you at? Hey, are you okay? You good? And you're not hearing anything. And so now I would have to scramble to find somebody to fill in the gap. And sometimes filling in that gap is not an overnight process, because sometimes you may not have two people to fill that one spot. You may have to go outside and contract somebody. Hey, I need you to come in. I got a person that called out. They're not going to be here for the next few days. Can I contract you in to come and take care of this? Cool, fine, no problem. But it's not always that easy, which in turn would stress me out. But then as much as I would have to display emotional intelligence for that person, I have to display it for myself as well. Because where this person will say, oh my gosh, I got so much going on outside of here, I'm not going to be able to complete this. I'm not going to. Now I got to be like, okay, John, you stay calm. This project has a strict deadline. You know what to do. I have to keep calm in order to strategically complete this project. If I don't stay calm, no one else is going to stay calm. What's that called? The domino effect?
The domino effect.
So now you got the domino effect, because one of my favorite lines from one of my favorite movies, Remember the Titans, attitude reflects leadership.
Oh my God, yes.
If my emotions are not in check, if I'm losing my mind, if I'm yelling, hooping, and hollering, or if I'm upset, or if I got all these other things going on, and I have all these emotions coming out onto people, how do you think it's going to affect everybody else? Everybody else is going to have an issue. Everybody else is going to be upset. Everybody else is going to be mad. So as long as I keep my emotions in check, as well as the other person, they're okay. Like, listen, I gave you a few days off. Take your time. Now it's on me. Because if they see me losing my mind, everybody else on the team is going to start losing their mind. I can't have that. So when it comes to emotional intelligence and strategic project planning or project completion, I have to ensure that not only am I influencing this person to keep their emotions in check, but I have to keep my emotions in check in order to complete this project, because everybody else on the team is going to be watching me too. So not only am I responsible for this person's emotions and my emotions, but I'm also responsible for the team's emotions too. So as long as I use my emotional intelligence, whether it be influence or whether it be displayed, that is what's going to keep the project flowing, is going to keep the project moving, and strategically, it'll get the project completed.
Well, we got two other things here in the chat. There is a thumbs up from Matthew. And we have this from Miss Ashley Marshall. Good work. Proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And so can you tell us, how do you balance scope, time, and resources under pressure?
Ooh, I like these questions. So when it comes to balancing scope, time, and resources, they all pretty much go hand in hand. When it comes to your scope, the one thing that you do not want to do is go outside of the scope. They call that scope creep. So a lot of times your stakeholders will try to come in and say, hey, I know I wanted this done, but I want to add this. If it's not in the scope, no, can't happen. Now, can it happen like now once we finish part of the project, can it happen on the next part? Yes. Yeah, we have to come up with a whole new scope, everything. Yeah, it can happen then, but right now we cannot, which also goes into the time. Because if they try to throw in something and it is not in the scope, that's going to throw the time
All the
off.
way.
Because let's say you have a project that's supposed to be 6 months and they want to they want to add something else in real quick after the scope and everything has already been, once that scope is signed, once everything is signed and completed, that's it. Whatever they're asking for, that's what has to be gone. That's what we have to go by. After that, that's it. But once you try to throw in something else into that scope, it's going to mess up that time frame. So what would have been a 6 month project now is going to turn into an 8 month project because now you're throwing in all these extras that you want to add into the project, which in turn throws off your resources because your resources can be anything. It can be people, it could be materials, it could be money, it could be anything. So now, let's say this person throws something in that scope, and now they threw something extra in, and now a 6 month project has now turned into an 8 month project. That project got a budget. Money is a
Yes.
resource. Now we've thrown off the budget. So now you've thrown off the budget, which is going to upset your stakeholders. Now you got your stakeholders upset. And they're going to be like, well, how come you're asking for more money? We gave you a substantial amount of money to handle this within 6 months, but we have this other part. And then they're going to say, well, that wasn't part of the scope. There ain't nothing worse. There's nothing worse than a stakeholder telling you that that's not part of the scope and you knew it wasn't.
Now, you know what's interesting about that? Because I know, especially when it comes to government contracting, they always put the scope of work in there. So when they do that, and I know that's also in accordance to the FAR. So when they put that in there, and I understand that a contract is supposed to be what a contract is. But in said situations
Mhm.
like what you guys do, because I think the scope of work for you guys being in a post office is more like supply chain management, regardless of the case. So with
Right.
that being like a sliding scale, what is the actual difficulties or problem if you've got to add that time, as long as it's still centered around what the main scope was in the beginning? You understand? Well, I guess it may sound kind of crazy
Mhm.
because I know that a contract is a contract, but I know that you guys have a lot of those situations to where you got to go back and you've got to add time and you got to add people and so forth to an already done contract because of said situations that come across that you didn't account for. What is the problem with that? And why is it that they would have a problem with that?
Well, when it comes to the federal government, I'll be the first to tell you the federal government is cheap.
Hmm.
And if they have a budget set, that budget is set in stone. Now, when it comes to the public sector is a little different. The public sector, they'll say, okay, if this is what's going to be in some cases, not in all cases, because in a lot of cases, if that contract is signed, it is set in stone and there is nothing else you can do about that. When it comes to the federal government, that contract is not just set in stone, it is set in steel.
Hmm.
There's no changing. If you try to add something else, or if you try to add something else, or if you try to slide something in and it's going to add extra money to that budget, you will not get another contract.
So you mean like when they do the amendments and so forth, that that means that just to add the amendment, you're saying is that whole same process all over again that could go into the contract or it cannot go into the contract?
It's a bit of a two-edged sword, depending on the cost. That's the main thing. Depending on the cost. If the cost is not substantial and is being amended, then yes. But if the cost is too high than what they're willing to pay or what's already within the budget, no, no. Uh, if you like, the thing about the scope is when you're dealing with, and you also have to remember too, when it comes to the scope, that is a signed document. That is now a signed legal document. So when it comes to the scope, you cannot go without of those bounds. The moment you do, you have a lawsuit on your hands. And the thing about a lawsuit, especially coming from the federal government, whatever opportunities, whatever chances, whatever partnerships you had, gone. Gone. You want to make sure that as a project manager, and again, I am still a novice at this, but a lot of what I am talking about is from education. If you go outside that signed document, especially if it's a federal entity, you will lose a lot of credibility. And that is the main thing. Once you lose credibility, that's it. That's it. You're really going to have to literally build back up from the ground up in order to be able to gain the trust of not only the private sector, which is most of your federal and government, but also the public sector as well.
So let's transition over to Black History. We when we chatted, and I told you we do Black History 365, and I asked you who was the most influential person or persons in your life and career. You mentioned Dr. Joshua Collins. Can you tell us why is Black History central to your personal and professional journey?
There have been a lot of ways paved, not only for me, but for everybody who is a person of color or someone who is Black. When it comes to Black history, of course, there is history that we were taught in school, and there's also history that we can read about that we have not been taught in school. There have been a lot of lives lost. There have been a lot of sacrifices made for me to even have the name doctor. There was a point in time in our history where having the name doctor was non-existent. But because of the people who came before me, who sacrificed their lives, sacrificed their time, sacrificed their families, they made it possible for me to have the name doctor in front of my name. So when it comes to me owning a business, when it comes to me working on my PMP, when it comes to me, and a lot of people don't know this, and I'm going to put this out there. I'm working on a double master's right now. There are so many things, and there are so many things, and there are so many arenas that when it comes to Black history that made it possible for all of us to do the things that we do. I can honestly say that I am forever indebted. I'm forever indebted. And you mentioned Dr. Joshua Collins. Yes. When I met him, This was years ago. This was early in my postal career. I see this gentleman. I'm working at the City Gate Post Office back home in Columbus, Ohio, and I see this gentleman walking in a suit, tailored suit. He just had this persona about him, and I believe he was the plant manager at the time. He walked up. He's walking, and we're walking in the same direction, and he says, "Hey, how you doing today?" I said, "I'm doing pretty good." He says, "What's your name?" "My name is John." He said, "My name is Dr. Josh Collins." He shook my hand, and it was just something about that handshake. I was just like,
Was
you
energetic and
know,
electrifying.
very much so, very
Yeah.
much so. And I shook his hand. We talked for like a hot second, and then he went on to go check on whatever unit he was going on, and I was actually headed to the tour office. And when I heard about that man's story, I can honestly say that was a very huge inspiration. And I'll be honest with you, back then I had already tried college. I tried college once already. Not that it didn't work. I had some issues that I had to take care of. That was that. I was actually sitting at work one day, and I was kind of looking at some of the benefits and some of the perks that we get working at the post office, and education was one of them. And so I'm looking through and I'm like, oh, DeVry University. Okay. We got a DeVry University here. Unfortunately, we don't have DeVry University in Columbus, Ohio anymore. But I'm one of those type of people. I can't sit in the classroom. I can't listen. My hat goes off to anybody that can sit in the classroom. If you can sit in the classroom, I applaud you. I can't do it. But they have online schooling. So that's kind of where my educational journey started, was in 2019. March 4th, 2019 was my first day of class. And I'm not going to lie to you. I'm sitting there and I'm looking like, what did I get myself into? But here we are. And the good thing about that too is it helped me become a more disciplined person. The amount of discipline that I have learned from having the option to, I can sit here in front of this laptop and I can finish these assignments the next 2 days and have the next 3 days free. Or I can just say, I can do this assignments this day, and this day, and then whatever. No. And then that's what led me up to having a doctorate. And here I am. So when it comes to Black history, when it comes to where I am, had it not been for the people who came before me, I would not be in the position I am in now. And I am forever indebted.
So, how has your identity shaped your leadership style?
So when it comes to my identity, the one thing, again, perception, emotional intelligence, and understanding people's point of view. That has pretty much shaped my leadership. So when I did supervision back in Columbus, Ohio, I you just have to learn how to talk to people. You have to learn how to understand people. And that really shaped my leadership. You have to, like, when it comes to talking to people, you have to understand your tone. You have to understand your language. Sometimes using big words, some people might get upset because you use big words because now you're making them feel like they're stupid. When you're an authoritative figure, that is not your job. Your job is not to make someone feel beneath you. Your job is to make sure you understand where they're coming from. You understand their point of view. You're listening to what they're saying. And you have to be able to deal with them on an even playing field. And if you can do that, then you can lead anywhere. And that's pretty much what has shaped my leadership model.
Brandy just gave you a shout out. There it is on the screen.
Thank you, Brandy.
You see, that's always see. You got good family support.
I do. You know what? I have a great support system, honestly. When it came to moving here, when it came to writing my book, when it came to starting my business, a lot of the people that I've had in my corner have, and that's everybody, my brother, Brandy, everybody, my sisters, even my dad. They have given me the utmost support. And it's a great feeling. This feels a lot of times, not even a lot of times, all the time, when my family gives me any kind of support, it feels better than what I did when I achieved my doctorate. Honestly, it is, and I am forever grateful to them. The moment I told them, I said, the moment I'm up, I'm bringing y'all up with me too. So y'all better get ready.
So, can you tell us this? What does representation in tech and government mean to you?
When it comes to representation is one of those type of things where you feel as though that is a field that you will never see someone who looks like you in. When you see someone who looks like us in a field where they think that we don't have the capacity to understand, we don't have the ability to comprehend, and you see people that look like me and you in those areas, then it's not the sky that's the limit. It's past the sky that's the limit. It's past the sky that's the limit. And that's one of the things that I like to see. I like to see my people not just shoot for the stars. I want to see you shoot for the planets. So when it comes to representation, that's what I like to see.
So, can you tell us why is Dr. Joshua Collin the most influential figure in your life?
So when I heard about his story, and again, this was well, it was probably around the time I was working on my YOLO belt when I heard about his actual story. That is the true rags to riches. Man was a dropout, went back, got his diploma, went back, got his bachelor's, went back, got his doctorate, went back, got his master's, then he went and got his doctorate. And now he is like a high executive within the Postal Service now. I believe that man he's either number 2 or number 3 behind the Postmaster General now.
Wow. You mean behind Louis DeJoy? Oh,
Yes.
wow.
Yes. That man is high. He is a high-ranking executive. And in fact, it wasn't too long ago that I and faulting for me, because there is chain of command. I emailed him and he emailed me back and he said, listen, I'm gonna have you talk to my secretary. And so because I'm asking about opportunities at this time. And this is probably maybe a couple of years ago. I'm asking about opportunities. His secretary emailed me, and the walkthrough process that she gave me, she didn't have to do that. She took 2 days out of her schedule per his instruction to guide me through everything that I need to learn.
Oh, wow. See, I like that. That's again, that's paying it forward. That's
Yes.
paying it forward. How did Dr. Collins's leadership at USPS inspire your own career path?
Representation.
Mm.
I saw someone who looked like me. Mind you, I'm just a regular employee. I got on shorts, work boots, t-shirt. Here I see this man walking in a suit. And I'm just like, I want to do that. I want to try that. I want to see what that's like. And like I said, after I shook his hand, I just felt that energy. I felt that aura, and it was just like it was as if his handshake was saying, "If I can do this, you can do this too."
Mm. Um, Last question for you. What
Mhm.
lessons from Dr. Collins's work do you apply daily?
Dedication, understanding, perspective, and comprehension. You have to be dedicated to what it is that you do every day. Working at the post office is not easy because when I say it changes every day, it is never a dull moment. Never a dull moment. When it comes to understanding, you have to understand where some people are coming from. Everybody comes from different backgrounds. Everybody has different dialects. And the moment you make that person feel, it could be one person or 10 people. The moment you make that one person feel that I understand where you're coming from, you have gained someone who will help you along your journey. When it comes to perspective, you have to understand everyone's perspective and their background and where they come from. And when it comes to comprehension, you have to comprehend the situation, the task at hand, what's going on, what's the issue. And once you comprehend that, it'll catapult you.
So in closing, do you have some words of wisdom and encouragement that you'd like to leave for our audience, telling them how to connect with you on social media, your website, even the links to your books? Because we definitely gonna have to bring you back and do those updates on all those books that you're probably gonna have released. So,
Yes.
you want to leave any of that for our audience?
Well, first and foremost, take the step. Do it. Take the step. You want to start that business? Start that business. You want to write that book? Write that book. You want to go back to school? Go back to school. Always remember that you are the author of your destiny. If you want to do it, do it. If anybody's going to be upset, let them be mad. Who cares? Some people peak in high school, some people peak in your careers, but that doesn't mean that you've peaked in your life. And if you want to keep going up that mountaintop until you reach that peak, keep climbing. Keep climbing. Now, my book, Sands of Time, it is on Amazon Kindle. I'm also working on two other books. One book is called Affair in the First Degree, and the other one is called Without You. I'm working on both of those right now, but Amazon Kindle is where you'll find Sands of Time, and in the near future, you'll find both Without You and Affair in the First Degree on that platform as well.
Well, I want to thank you, Dr. Goins, for spending this time with us. It has been definitely enlightening, and we definitely have to have you back.
And thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for allowing me to be on your platform. And thank you for allowing me to reach the people that I've been able to reach today. This has been a great
Yes,
honor.
sir. And y'all make sure though that y'all will be able to catch Dr. Goins in the monthly magazine at the end of the month. So he will definitely be highlighted, and you will have all of those links to go and purchase these books as well. Again, I want to thank you for being here because it was truly enlightening. And I gotta say that, from the time we first connected on LinkedIn up to this point, I want you to know that it was definitely worth it because, as you progress, we all progress. And so that's a very positive thing. For those of you that have been listening to Dr. Goins tonight, you should have gotten a lot of things from the messages in which he put out, because the main point of not just team building, but the point of actually organizing, getting the plan together, and executing. All of those in the stages of this long process that not only does he go through with work, but what he did to get his certifications in doing the Lean Six Sigma. Each of those belts are a tier that went up and went up and went up. That means that was discipline, that was dedication, that was motivation, and that was inspiration. That is what you should have taken from this message tonight, because this is what we hope that we can do for each and every individual that's out in the community, to where you see somebody that looks like you that was able to accomplish and achieve and to keep working to achieve even more, is to keep pushing. That's our message to you tonight. Keep pushing. Do not stop. Your dream is your dream. And if you want to accomplish that, you can accomplish that. For all of you that are watching on all of our 8 channels, particularly those of you that are watching on the YouTube channels, if you have not yet subscribed and enabled all notifications, I ask if you will please support us and do that for us, please. Please subscribe and get all of the notifications, because each and every time we do a show, you will get the notifications that the show is about to start, where you can just click and watch the show when it starts, or you can go back and you can watch each and all of our previous recordings, where you can get all of the messages and information for things in which you are looking for in order to make yourself that much more better. So please subscribe and hit those enable all those notifications. We will have another great show for you guys tomorrow night, same time, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I'll ask you guys to please come back and watch the show again tomorrow night. Please be active in your participation. You can ask your questions live, and your questions will be answered on air. I want to thank you again, Dr. Goins, and everyone that was out there watching tonight. You guys have a great evening, and we will see you again tomorrow night on America in Black and White, where we will continue to color conversations on America's canvas.